Welcome to Game of Faith Podcast. This is your host, Reginald Easy Ward. Man, it's been a while, but guys, I have a very special guest. I'm very excited. I have Brother Antar Muhammad here. Brother Antar, just, give us a little bit of insight on who you are, what you do. Just kind of go ahead and tell us who you are.
Well, first of all, to not shock your viewers and your listeners, when I was, actually before I was born, many years before I was born, he joined the Nation of Islam. And so I was kind of born with the name, but I'm not Muslim. My great-grandmother refused to allow him to raise me Muslim. She knew that God had a calling for me. So she took me to church, and it was fire baptized, holiness, sanctified church. Everything, all of that. Women don't wear makeup, don't wear pants. So, it was holiness or hell kind of church. And I grew up in that, and later went on to a Baptist church, and now at a non-denominational church. So let's get that clear first. But for the last 20 years, I've been a member of the Potter's House Church in Dallas, Texas, under Bishop T.D. And the last 15 years, including 5 volunteer years, I've been his executive coordinator, or in church terms, his armor bearer, his adjutant, his assistant, depending on what world we go into is the word that I would use, but assistant to Bishop T.D.
Okay, good. Thank you for that insight. My viewers, armor bearer, some people, they ain't so churchy, I know what that is, but some people may not know what that is. It may be a little bit too technical for them, but, we definitely appreciate that. One of the things that, I always like, I love having people with compelling stories, and, I've done a ton of homework, so I got some questions that's gonna really, really be like, wow, man, this dude, we talking about a little bit. So, one of the things that, I really want to dive into is like, I want to actually back up and start, what, when you were growing up, what did you feel like God was calling you to do, or what was the vision you had for your life, maybe, before all of this happened?
Well, I feel like God had always called me to some sort of area to where I was helping. I've always felt like I had the ministry of helps, before I even knew it had a name. I just knew God had called me. Truthfully, I felt like God at a young age called me to ministry and to minister and to spread his word and spread his gospel. So that's something that's been embedded in me and been put in me from a very young age, and I believe that was really God's mission or vision for me. I can't really tell you exactly where I was going to go, because when I was a young man, I was a bit, I was just really just doing something just to kind of get by, and working little odds and end jobs, and God allowed me to stumble into my destiny. Wow. And that's how I believe God will really show you or really lead you. A lot of times you get there by stumbling into it, by a series of incidents and events that happen, that one day you end up stumbling into something to where your spirit says, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is the place, much like Abraham when he got ready to take Isaac up, and when they were yet 3 days off, the Bible says he saw the place. Yeah. And I feel like if you just keep walking with God, eventually you're going to stumble and say, oh no, your spirit is going to say, that's the place. And wow. So that's what I got here.
Wow, that's good. See, I told my viewers I was 2020 was the year we come with some good content. But you said some interesting there. You said you were working odd jobs, and I know personally right now I have a lot of friends in my life who are doing that. And to be honest, I've done that. I was in a season, where I was working at Macy's folding boxes, really, really doing work, that you don't think, really means anything. So, how are you stewarding over those type of jobs, and how do you think they prepared you for where you're doing now?
Well, I've always been faithful to where I was, and the thing about it is, if you're faithful to where you are, then you will always be promoted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem, a lot of people, and I hate to really say this, but because it makes me sound real old, but
Be
the problem,
transparent.
the problem with young people or people in your generation is, you do something 6 months, it's not working, then you want to jump on something else. You do that 6 months, it's not working, it's not fulfilling me, you keep going and you keep jumping from place to place to place. The problem is, you've never A, thrown your full self into it, or B, you have never really gave it your all, or really, for lack of a better term, you can't come in and be half professional and expect a full reward.
Mm.
You can't do it halfway and expect a full reward from it. And so many times you keep jumping from place to place to place, and you want the full reward, but yet they haven't got the full benefit of you. And so why am I going to reward you? Why am I going to promote you? A, you haven't been here long enough. You haven't put the work in long enough. And B, you haven't been fully professional or given us your full all in it. So I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you're going to get passed over because you're late, because you take long breaks, because you don't report on time, because you mishandle information, because you don't understand protocol, and you don't understand timeliness and details and all that kind of stuff. So of course I'm going to pass you over for somebody who appears to be more competent, even though you may be. I just never seen it before, because you choose not to show it, because you don't feel like this is your destiny. You feel like this is a do-nothing job, so you give them that attitude.
That's good. You just said a whole lot. So one thing, but before the camera's there, you're talking about thinking ahead, and planning ahead, and how right now it's January, but you're already thinking to the end of the year. Can you kind of really like dive deep into what's some of your day-to-day responsibilities for as Bishop Jake's assistant and armor bearer, and just talk to us about how you got to really plan ahead and really be thinking forward.
Well, the reality is no 2 days for us is the same. So I can't ever think that today is going to be like yesterday, because it absolutely is not, and nor will tomorrow be like today. But I've always got to be ahead of him, days, or rather steps, but my mentality has to be days, weeks, and sometimes months ahead, because at this point, though we're here in January, if I'm still thinking about January, then I'm late. At this point, it's all about execution, because there's so much to do. We got so much coming up that at this point, I'm already into the spring and digging into the summer and the fall, really. And so that's how you have to be. If you want to be great at anything, you have to think ahead. And you have to think ahead of a plan A and a plan B, and then sometimes a plan C. Okay, if you want to be great in leadership, if you want to be great in servant leadership, then you need to have, okay, this is the direction we're going to go. This is how we're going to do it. Now, if something happens, you have to always plan and put buffers in. If something happens, then if I need to take this road, if I need to do this, or if I need to do that, then here's my point A, or my plan A, my plan B, my plan C. And if you're going to be a servant leader, if you're going to be serving in your church, even your company, your school, or whatever, if you're going to be the second in command, or maybe you're a leader, but you have somebody over you, you never take them problems without at least having a solution in your head as to a way to solve it.
That's good.
Because I hired you, I brought you on, I brought you in to bring me solutions, not to bring me problems. So I'm always thinking about, okay, if this is the problem, then here's a couple of ways that we can solve it. Now, he may choose to go with it, he may choose not to go with it, but at least you know that I'm thinking about it and I'm not just dumping problems on you without at least giving you potential
And you bring solutions. Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's good. That's good. I really want to backtrack, because when I heard your story about how you came to this position, can you kind of walk us through, like how you came into this position, how it happened? I know you served and you volunteered, for years for nothing essentially, and just served your time for your heart, So can you just kind of walk us through, those steps of how you got to that position?
I came to the Potter's House Church in May of 1998, and I immediately started serving in the church because I've always been a servant of some type, no matter what church I was in. And I started helping out in our volunteer security department. And my first position was on this hallway that was on our second floor above our lobby. And so there you had to make sure that people came upstairs and used the restroom and not go to a dining hall, which was at one end of the hallway, or First Lady or Mrs. Jakes' office, which was at the other end. So we deemed that potty patrol. And so I did that for years, not just that position, but served in security, served on our hospitality, served on our transportation, served many departments for many, many years. And my faithfulness was noticed. I did it for years, not asking to go up higher, not asking to serve Bishop Jakes, not asking how can I do this, not asking how can I do that, how can I be seen. I just served for years, and God saw me. And in fact, I know we'll get to it later, but I wrote a book, and it's called Heartcore, and one of the chapters in the book is "Do Not Shine, Serve." I've always believed in letting my gift do the talking. It just happens to be in my body. I never tried to put me on display. I put my gift on display. When I walk into the room, my gift has walked into the room. It's just encompassed within me. And so I've always put my gift on display. I've never felt like that it's about me. It's about the gift that I bring. It's about when I walk into the room, something has entered into the room, an ease, a peace, a comfort, an organization, organizational skills, a steadiness in the midst of chaos, a stayed mind in the midst of a confusing situation. Something has entered into the room. Service has entered into the room. The question that I want to ask you and ask your listeners is, when you come into the room, what is coming to the room? When you come in, what comes in with you? See, a lot of times, we're so busy, and young people are so busy trying to show you them. It's all over social media. Like my picture, post my picture, make me go viral, help me go viral, do this, do that. And they want to go viral so bad. They want to blow up. They want this overnight thing. And so then by the time I get to know what gift you have, I don't really care. Because the you that brought the gift has so turned me off and nauseated me that it's not important to me anymore. Because the packaging has so deterred me from anything I would ever want to do. I don't want the gift anymore. So you can't be narcissistic and have a servant's heart at the same time. That's an oxymoron. Either you're going to be served or you're going to serve. And if you're going to serve, then it's never about you. It's about the gift. And the gift serves no matter how you feel. The gift serves tired. The gift serves, I know what it is to serve. I started out volunteering at the church for years, leaving service 10, 11 o'clock, still having to get up at 5 and 6 o'clock to go to my regular job for years. Get off of there. Some nights have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to church with a young family to serve again. Then have to get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Do it again.
To do it again.
Consistency.
It wasn't about me. It was about my gift. And so if you're not going to be consistent, don't even start it. Because I'd rather you be consistent and serve with consistency than for me to have to wonder if you're going to come in today, or is that another spot that I'm going to have to fill because you chose to take the day off.
That's good. You just said a whole lot. It's one question that I was going to save to the end, but you touched on it then. So, you mentioned, serving tired, serving sick, serving, when quite frankly, you kind of don't feel like it. So I want to ask you just, how do you manage to get poured into when you're always the one that's serving?
Well, you find times to get poured into. Maybe it's you getting up early in the mornings and having your devotional with God. Maybe it's you going to bed late and having your devotionals with God. Maybe it's you getting away for a few moments in the middle of the day and having a devotional for God, with God. You have to be conscious about making time for God and making time so that you can receive back from Him, because you can keep doing this and doing this and doing this, and pretty soon you're on empty. And you can have a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, but if it don't have no gas, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
And it looks great, but you're not going anywhere unless somebody pushes you. And then they can only push you so far, and then people get tired of pushing you. And that's the same thing that people end up doing at church. You can keep going and going and going, and you never take time to just get fed. And you never take time to just get refueled. And here's the problem, too, that a lot of people have. It's a misconception. You don't have to always get fed at church then. You can have your own private worship moment, because if you're serving at church, that Sunday morning is really for the pews. It's not for you. You're working. The pastor, you can get the word.
Yeah.
You can get it. But as far as that, the entirety of the service, you can't get lost in it, because it's not for you. Yeah. It's for the pews. So either you're going to work that day or you're going to sit that day. Now, if you're sitting, that's different.
Yeah.
Enjoy the service. Get fed. This is your day to get refueled. But if this is supposed to be a day you're serving, you're working or whatever, then you have to know how to receive but work at the same time. And then you have to take time to specifically have moments where God can talk to you and you can talk to Him. Early in the morning, on your drive, in the shower. You can listen to a podcast like this one. You can listen to some sermons at work or something like that. But you have got to be deliberate about the time with God.
That's, man, you knocked these out the park today. I appreciate you for real. I really, so, for listeners, in your words, define what servant leadership is, and really, I'd like you kind of share some insight into what you believe, like how would you define servant leadership if somebody asked you to define it?
I define servant leadership much like I do in my book, is that effective leadership starts with the servant's heart. A lot of people who say they are servant leaders, they just like to say that just so they can say that they're leaders. But the real definition of a really great leader is somebody who serves. You cannot be a great leader without realizing that everybody who is under your authority is subject to your voice. So that means that, if you are the the leader of a church, and you say, you know what, we're going to move this church from D.C. to Chicago, you have got to take into account every single body that's going to affect. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have 24-hour church. Now, I'm not going to be here 24 hours, but I'm expecting all y'all to be here 24 hours. Well, you think, but bro, you're not really considering us in this thought. So the ideal of a servant leader is serving, or rather leading with a servant's heart. And you can also lead or serve rather, but you have the ability to be a leader within you, but you have the meekness to know when it's your time to lead and when it's your time to serve.
That's good. That's good. So, segueing right into that, you mentioned your book, Heartcore, that, tell us a little bit about that, kind of explain that. Viewers, he has a great book out, Heartcore. I recommend it. It's about servant leadership. Our generation, we need that. A lot of us want to be in the forefront. We want to be in the front space, but God hasn't called us to that. He called us to serve first. So, just kind of tell us a little bit about that, please.
Thank you. The book, I published it in 2018. It's based off leadership development and servant leadership trainings I've done for years. And so I finally put pen to paper and made it happen. And the book is all about you as a leader and as a servant leader, how to do it effectively with a servant's heart. I talk about building your team. I talk about the 3 I's of building your team, from the interview, the interaction, and the investment phase, and how that your team is a direct reflection of you. Whether that's a team of friends or a team of people around you, everybody you put around you is going to be a reflection of who you are. So if I want to know who you are, I don't necessarily have to talk to you. I talk to the people around you, and they're going to show me who you are. And so many times we put people around us who are just like us. And then once I get ready to meet you, I'm going to meet your team, and that's going to give me a great depiction of who you are. So you can't be a murderer and a judge and you all be friends. Wow. That's an oxymoron. Yeah. Something doesn't match here. You can't be this big, I quit using illustrations because,
No, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying you cannot have two extremes without there being a contradiction somewhere. And so it's all about picking the right people around you. I talk about my golden rule is study your leader. You can't be great at servant leadership. You can't be great at serving if you don't study your leader, if you don't study the people who you are under. How can you be great at anything, whether that's studying your leader, studying your spouse, studying your boss? How can you be great and know that you are being effective if you don't study them and have their mindset? And human beings are creatures of habit, really. 70% of the things you've done today, you did it yesterday. And you don't even realize it. Every day you're doing about 70% of the same thing you've done every single day. And so for all of those out there who want to, serve under their pastor, under their leader, you have got to be forward thinking, and you've got to study your leader, and you have got to know, okay, this is what my leader means when he says this. This is what she means when she says this. This is what her face means. I talk about verbal and nonverbal communication. I talk about in the book the acronym CORE. Which is convictions, observations, realities, and execution, and or empowerment rather. You cannot be a great leader if you don't study your team as well. Mm-hmm. Because how can you be a great leader and not study your team and not put people in places where they shine? Many times, especially in church, we put people on our teams and we give them tasks according to our needs, not according to their abilities. Well, if you keep doing that and they're not really competent to do that, then they're going to keep failing, and you're going to keep having an issue with them, and they're going to keep having an issue with you, and then neither one of you are going to ever get anything done because you keep putting the wrong person in the wrong position. and they're not shining there, but you just need somebody there. And so both of y'all are going to have frustration. So the book is available on Amazon. It's available on my website, antarmuhammad.com. That's all I'm giving you for free. So you got to get the book.
Yeah.
And it's also available on Kubu and iBooks as well.
You got to get the book. That's always giving us. We thank you. So you mentioned studying your leader. So what's the greatest? So since you've been serving Bishop Jakes, up close personal, what's the greatest thing you learned since serving a man like that?
One of the greatest lessons is so many. You'll win if you don't quit. You'll win if you don't quit. And many times, people get started, much like I started out in the beginning talking about consistency. And they get started, and you think 6 months is consistency. 6 months is nothing. You think that if you do this, you start a podcast, you start a business, and so you've been doing it for a year. You say, I'm consistent. I should be promoted. You start working, you go to work. I should be promoted. Well, let's break this down. Okay. You've been doing something consistently 6 months. Now, say you live to be 84. Do the math on the percentage of 6 months over your lifespan of 84 years.
That's small. Something very small.
So you want this eternal God, right, to give you this lifelong blessing promise. Yet, you've only given him a small percentage of consistency. And here's something else too. You only do it a little bit in your day. It's not you. You tap at it, but it's not really you. You haven't fully given yourself to it. You've tipped it. Right?
This is good, yeah.
You're giving God a tip of your day, or giving your destiny, or your what you feel like God has called you. You're giving it a tip of your day, but you want God to give you a full reward, right? Instead of you giving it your all, and as much as you can. I understand. You say, "Well, I got responsibilities. I got jobs. I got kids. I understand all of that." But in those times where you have free time, I saw this quote, and it makes a lot of sense. Unless you're rich and wealthy or where you want to be, you shouldn't really be resting that much. Something like that. But think about it. What's standing in between you and where you want to go is how consistent you are.
Wow.
That's pretty much it. How consistent are you? How bad do you want it? Then you got to ask yourself, why do you want it? Why? Because if you can't answer that, then you'll never find the fight within you. Why do you want it that bad? Because if you want it that bad just to make some money, then of course that's why you're not fighting that hard, because it's not a true calling within you. It's just something that you just want.
Yeah.
And it's just your emotions. And I talk about that in the book too. Understand the difference between your heart, which is the core of who you really are, at your core, who you really are, and your mind, your emotions. A lot of people make big decisions based off their emotions, when in reality, you get up in the morning and you feel one way. And if the weather changes, you feel another way, and your emotions have changed several times throughout the day. And many people make big, major decisions off of their emotions and out of who they really are. When, if you do that, you'll wake up 3 months down the road or crying on your pillow or driving down the road and wondering why that did not work like I thought it would, because you were not meant to make that decision. You made it off an emotional place that can and will change, and you didn't make it off of who you really are.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Wow. That's good. So I do want to have one last question. So is there anything you can tell young leaders, young people who are struggling, to find out their calling, their gift? What's one parting thing that you would tell them on the way to find their gift and their true calling?
One thing that I have really learned from Bishop Jakes is that, and I told somebody, I was talking to somebody, a young man like this. You got all these dreams, all these visions, all these things in you. Try them all right now. You're young enough to throw a little bit, throw something at them, and the one that comes back is what's meant for you. Mm. The one where when you try it, something leaps in you, that's for you. Let me tell you this. You'll know it's you when you do it by accident. Mm. You'll know this is. I've always been a servant before I knew what the name armor bearers were, adjutant, none of that. I used to be a little bitty boy carrying my pastor's Bibles and briefcases. I didn't even know what it was called. You'll know it's you when somebody has to remind you, you're doing that thing again. Mm. You don't even mean to. You just slip into it. You fall into it. You can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody can wake you up cold at your sleep, and you end up doing it. You go right into that mode. It's crazy because some days you're tired. You're dead tired. You don't feel like it. You have told yourself, I'm not doing anything today. I'm not going to do it. You get that one phone call, that switch happens, and suddenly you're fully energized. That's what you're meant to do.
Wow.
If it doesn't energize you, if it doesn't wake you up out of your sleep, if you don't think about it in your sleep, at night you can't hardly sleep without having dreams and visions and have to sometimes get up, write notes, and sometimes you have to force yourself to go to sleep because you only got a few hours before you have to get up and go to work. It's not for you.
Wow.
If you think about how tired you are, if you think about, oh my God, I've been on my feet for 12 hours. If you think about how long you've been in the studio, if you think about how long you've been at work, if you think about, oh my God, I got another person to talk to, I'm ready to go home. You're in some kind of counseling job or something like that, social work. If you think about it in those terms, and you keep counting down and counting how many people or how many something you have left before you get to go home, it's not for you. Stop it. Quit it. Do something else. Because if it's for you, time ceases to be an issue. You don't even think about time. People have to remind you, you need to go home. You actually need to go home and take a bath because you stink. You've been in the studio all day.
Yeah.
They have to remind you to eat because your purpose, your destiny, your calling has been driving you so much, it has taken you over, and you can't even think about anything else but the goal you see in mind with this calling.
Wow.
That's what I tell them.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Brother Antar Muhammad, we thank you. I appreciate you.
It's my honor.
Game of Faith, Heartcore, we're out.